Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Continuing with the discussion on Srimadbhagawatam, third canto, chapter 6, Creation of the Universal Form. Text number 34. Ete varna swadharmena yajanti swagurum harim shuddhyatma vishuddhyartham yajjata sahavrittibhi. All these different social divisions are born with their occupational duties and living conditions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, for unconditional life and self-realization, one has to worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master. So all the social divisions, all varnashram system, it is born from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nowhere else it came from. Of course, everything comes from Krishna. But specifically, Prabhupada is talking about this. Since they are born from different parts of the body of the Supreme Lord in his gigantic form, all living entities in all parts of the entire universe are supposed to be the eternal servitors of the Supreme Body. Every part of our own body, such as mouth, hands, thighs, legs, is meant to render service to the whole. That is their constitutional position. So Prabhupada is saying every part of our own body, if you look at our own body, it's meant to serve the rest of the body, meant to serve the whole. That is their constitutional position. So every part of gigantic body of the Supreme Lord is the same. They are supposed to serve the Supreme Lord. In subhuman life, the living entities are not conscious of this constitutional position. But in the human form of life, they are supposed to know this through the system of varnas, the social orders. As above mentioned, the Brahman is a spiritual master of all the orders of society, and thus Brahminical culture, culminating in the transcendental service of the Lord, is a basic principle for purifying the soul. So the specialty or the characteristic of this varnashram system is that one should learn to know what's the goal of human form of life. If one does not know, or one doesn't even try to find out the goal of human form of life, then he is not even in varnashram system. He is lower than the varnashram system. And the Brahman is supposed to be the spiritual master of all the orders of society. And so the Brahminical culture, culminating in the transcendental service of the Lord, that is the basic principle for purifying the soul. Without that, soul cannot be purified. It's just like a nice example once I heard, and I've given it in the classes. Suppose there is a nice driver and he has a nice car in Delhi, and he drives around following the laws of the road and where to turn and how give indicator before he turns, and follows all the signals, doesn't overspeed, doesn't hit anybody, doesn't honk and this and that, and he's driving around the roads in Delhi. Is he a good driver? Somebody will say, yes, he's a good driver. But what if he is driving around but he doesn't know where to go? On the other hand, there is a driver, he doesn't follow any of the laws of the road, but he still gets from point A to point B. So of these two, which one is better driver? So you'll say one who gets to point B, from A to B. So this is actually Varnashram system. Varnashram system is everybody who follows the Varnashram system properly. It keeps a society healthy and well functioning. The social fabric, the social structure, it's very nicely done if people are following Varnashram system. But the ultimate aim of Varnashram system is one should know about God and one should try to render service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if one doesn't know about it while following Varnashram system, then he didn't really follow the essence. On the other hand, if a person he doesn't follow Varnashram system, or he breaks the laws, breaks the rules once in a while or maybe all the time, but he knows the purpose of life and he is trying to follow that and he is serving the Supreme Lord. So definitely that person is better. Of course, the best is one who serves the Supreme Lord while following Varnashram system. That is the best. So ultimately, the aim is to render service unto the Supreme Lord, become a devotee of the Lord. Then everything is great, because Krishna himself says in not in Bhagavatam it is said, one who doesn't follow Varnashram system but still he's rendering service, he's still considered a better person. In conditioned life, the soul is under the impression that he can become the Lord of the universe. And the last point of this misconception is to think oneself with the Supreme. The foolish conditioned soul does not take into account that the Supreme cannot be conditioned by Maya or illusion. If the Supreme were to become conditioned by illusion, where would be his supremacy? In that case, Maya or illusion would be the Supreme. Therefore, because the living entities are conditioned, they cannot be supreme. So this point Prabhupada repeats over and over again. Because this Mayavadi philosophers, they say, you are God, I am God, we all are God. Right now we are just forgotten we are God. And as soon as we remember God, as soon as we remember we are God, we will become God. In that logic, there is a fallacy that if I am going to forget I am God under the influence of Maya, then the Maya is stronger than me, then how can I be the Supreme Lord? When Supreme Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, this Maya works under my direction. So in that case, Maya or illusion would be supreme. Therefore, because the living entities are conditioned, they cannot be supreme. The actual position of the conditioned soul is explained in this verse. All the conditioned souls are impure due to contact with the material energy in three modes of nature. Therefore, it is necessary that they purify themselves under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, who not only is a Brahman by qualification, but must also be a Vaishnava. So, spiritual master, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Keninai, Jai Krishna Tattva Veta, Sai Guru Hai. Means whether he's a Brahman or sannyasi or Shudra, it doesn't matter. If he knows the truth about Krishna, he is a Guru. Now, truth of Krishna is also in different categories. There could be philosophical truth, just the complete gyan wise. There could be truth on the level of power. There could be mercy truth. See, everybody has different realizations about Krishna. And there could be truth at the level of sweetness. There could be truth at the level of love. It's all true about Krishna. He is Bhagwan. So that is Gyan. But he is supremely sweet. He is supremely lovable. That's also truth. But that truth is much, much, much beyond Bhagwan level. So, but one has to know the truth, or the spiritual master is the one who knows the truth about Krishna. He might not know all the ultimate truth, but he knows at least Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's also truth. So that kind of person can only become the spiritual master, not just anybody. Saying, I'm God, you're God, everybody's God. The only self-purifying process mentioned herein is to worship the Lord under the recognized method, under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master. That is a natural way of purification, and no other method is recommended as bona fide. The other methods of purification may be helpful to come to this stage of life, but ultimately one has to come to this last point before he attains actual perfection. One has to take shelter under the guidance of bona fide spiritual master and make progress following his instructions, how to serve the Lord, and then that's how he becomes purified. Otherwise, there is no other way. So the point Prabhupada is making is, so every part of gigantic body, the duty of that part is to serve the whole. Text 35. एतक्षत्तर भगवतो देवकर्मात्मरूपिणः कः श्रद्धयाद् उपाकर्तुं योगमाया balodayam. O Vidura, who can estimate or measure the transcendental time, work, and potency of the gigantic form, manifested by the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Because Vidurji had asked this question about the Lord, about his energies, about time, work, potency, different activities of the Lord. So Maitreya Muni is responding to that. The froggish philosophers may go on with their mental speculations on the subject matter of the Virat, the gigantic form exhibited by the Yogmaya internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But factually, no one can measure such a vast exhibition. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, the recognized devotee of the Lord, says, O my Lord, O gigantic Vishwarupa form, O Master of the universe, I see innumerable hands, bodies, mouths, and eyes in all directions, and they are all unlimited. I cannot find the end of this manifestation, nor do I see the middle nor the beginning. So this is how gigantic form was shown to Arjuna. And he was seeing everything standing on his chariot in Kurukshetra, but he could not see the beginning or end of the Virat Rupa. So how can anybody be person like us? Arjuna was given divine eyes to see the Virat Rupa. We don't even have normal 20/20 eyes. So how can even estimate the length and breadth of the Virat Rupa? Bhagavad Gita was specifically spoken to Arjuna, and Vishwarupa was exhibited before him at his request. He was awarded the specific eyes to see the Vishwarupa. Although he was able to see Lord's innumerable hands and mouths, he was unable to see him completely. Since Arjuna was unable to estimate the length and breadth of the potency of the Lord, who else would be able to do so? One may only indulge in miscalculation like the frog philosopher. So again, Prabhupada is giving this puffed up frog mentality. The frog philosopher wanted to estimate the length and breadth of the Pacific Ocean by his experience of a well 3 cubic feet large. And thus he began to puff himself up to become as big as the Pacific Ocean. But at last he burst and died by this process. This story is applicable to the mental philosophers who, under the illusion of Lord's external energy, indulge in estimating the length and breadth of the Supreme Lord. The best path is to become a cool-headed, submissive devotee of the Lord. Try to hear about the Lord from the bona fide spiritual master, and thus serve the Lord in transcendental loving service, as suggested in the previous verse. So that is the only way to understand the Lord actually, by His mercy. Following the spiritual master is the one who is supposed to engage us in the service of Krishna, not not engage in his own service or not engage in doing some philanthropic work or something else. And then by the mercy of the Lord, we can know about the Lord. Tathapi kirtiyamyanga yathamati yathashutam kirtim hare swam satkartum giramanya vidhasatim. In spite of my inability, whatever I have been able to hear from the spiritual master, and whatever I could assimilate, I am now describing in glorification of the Lord by pure speech, for otherwise my power of speaking would remain unchaste. The purification of the conditioned soul necessitates purification of his consciousness. So that is a real purification. When we talk about we have to purify ourselves, purify our consciousness. From body consciousness, we have to come to Krishna consciousness. And then all our activities, all our talks, all our walks, all our thoughts, everything will be purified. By the presence of consciousness, the presence of the transcendental soul is verified. And as soon as consciousness leaves the body, the material body is not active. Consciousness is perceived, therefore, by activities. The theory put forward by empiric philosophers that consciousness can remain in an inactive state is a proof of the pure fund of knowledge. One should not become unchaste by stopping the activities of pure consciousness. If the activities of pure consciousness are stopped, certainly the conscious living force will be otherwise engaged, because unless engaged, the consciousness has no standing. Consciousness cannot be silent even for a moment. When the body does not act, consciousness acts in the form of dreams. Unconsciousness is artificial. By induced extraneous help, it remains for a limited period. But when the intoxication of the drug is finished, or when one is awake, the consciousness again acts earnestly. Prabhupada is talking first about consciousness. Consciousness means activities. When a person is conscious, he is active. When the consciousness is a symptom of the soul, and the soul, when it's in the body, is always active. As soon as the soul, along with consciousness, leaves this body becomes inactive, it dies. So the activities of pure consciousness have to go on. We should not stop that. What we have done is, with our impure consciousness, we have changed the mode of those activities from Krishna to body. But the consciousness still remains even in this body, even if the pure consciousness is covered by impurities. When the body does not act, the consciousness acts in the dreams. Even if the body is not moving, the mind is still working when we are dreaming. And Prabhupada says, so consciousness cannot remain inactive. But sometimes, under the influence of drugs, like a person when he's in coma or something happened, then consciousness, although he is still conscious, he cannot act, he cannot move around. But it doesn't remain for too long. Either he dies, leaves the body, or he comes back into better consciousness. Maitreya's statement is that in order to avoid unchaste conscious activities, he was trying to describe the unlimited glories of the Lord, although he did not have the ability to describe them perfectly. So to to avoid unchaste conscious activities. Means consciousness, which is symptom of the soul, and the soul is part and parcel of Krishna. The speaking ability also comes from Krishna, like from Virat Rupa we are seeing. The speaking organ, tongue, comes from Krishna. So everything, all this organ, the ability, the consciousness has to be engaged in the service of Krishna. Because this is what the job of this tongue and the consciousness is. Krishna is the original proprietor of everything, all our body, senses, everything. So chastity is, our chastity is to use this consciousness, these bodily parts, this body, this intelligence in his service. So if somebody has a beautiful voice, he or she should sing about Krishna. But this is what happened. When somebody has a beautiful voice, he wants to go to Bollywood and sing movie songs. So same organ can purify us and same organ can entangle us. Organ is same, the tongue. Whether we sing about Krishna, we talk about Krishna, or we sing movie songs, or we sing mundane songs. It's up to us. And then if we sing mundane songs, then our consciousness becomes more and more impure. This glorification of the Lord is not a product of research, but the result of hearing submissively from the authority of the spiritual master. It's also not possible to repeat all that one has heard from his spiritual master, but one can narrate as far as possible by one's honest endeavor. It does not matter whether the Lord's glories are fully explained or not. One must attempt to engage one's bodily, mental, and verbal activities in the transcendental glorification of the Lord. Otherwise, such activities will remain unchaste and impure. So it doesn't matter to what extent we can glorify the Lord. But the idea is to use these organs and consciousness in the service of the Lord. The existence of the conditioned soul can be purified only by the method of engaging mind and speech in the service of the Lord. The three Dandi sannyasis of Vaishnava school accept three rods, representing the vows to engage in the service of the Lord with body, mind, and speech, whereas the Ek Dandi sannyas takes the vow to become one with the Supreme. Since the Lord is the Absolute, there is no distinction between him and his glories. The glories of the Lord as chanted by the Vaishnava sannyasi are as substantial as the Lord himself. And thus, while glorifying the Lord, the devotee becomes one with him in transcendental interest, although he remains eternally a transcendental servitor. This simultaneously one in different positions of the devotee makes him eternally purified, and thus his life becomes a complete success. So to make one's life complete success, Prabhupada says, one should start getting purified by the method of engaging mind and speech in the service of the Lord. When mind and speech are engaged, the body automatically follows that. The senses automatically follow them, and they all want to serve the Lord. They all understand their constitutional position. And this is what Prabhupada said, three Dandi sannyasi of Vaishnava school. So in our sampradaya or in all the Vaishnava sampradaya, when the sannyas order is given, he is given a stick. Of course, we see only the stick which is covered by cloth. But that stick inside the cloth is a three dandi. There are three bamboo sticks. They are bound together. So all the three bamboo sticks means body, mind, and words. They represent body, mind, and words. And at the top of that bamboo stick, there is there's like a boomerang shape. There's an object. It's made of wood, but that boomerang shape is there. And that actually represents the soul. So the sannyasi, when he takes sannyas, he takes a vow to engage in the service of the Lord, his body, his mind, and his words. Means his BMW. So he is saying, I'll engage my BMW in your service. So we all have BMW. It's not that only sannyasis who are taking sannyas out of life, they only have BMW. And that they can use. We all can use our body, our mind, and words in the service of the Lord. And whenever we do that, a person is as good as a sannyasi. Sannyas doesn't mean changing the dress or the color of the dress or carrying that tridandi rod. Sannyas means whenever we are engaging a body, mind, and words in the service of the Lord. So sannyas means no connection with the material world. So as soon as we start engaging body, mind, words, we are losing the connection with the material world. So that person is as good as sannyasi, even though he could be a grihastha. And then Prabhupada explains about Ek Dandi sannyas, the Mayavadis. They also have a sannyas danda, and that is Ek Danda. There's only one rod or one stick, not three sticks like in Vaishnava's tradition. So one stick represents or signifies that I am one with the Lord. So but we are never one. We are one in the sense that when we are purified, then we have the same purpose as the Lord does. There is no difference in purpose. So that's our understanding of oneness. So anyway, I'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, really good class today, and also yesterday I've listened the video, the class video, and the one statement which you have mentioned that the Shudras who are untouchable, if they are at the same house, they are working, how they become untouchable. That really makes sense, Prabhuji, actually. And so thanks a lot for that, Prabhuji. Small things actually matters a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening, Prabhu. Any other question or comment? So I guess we can stop here. You all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.